If I started my piano lesson studio today, these are the 9 mistakes that I would avoid and the 9 things that I absolutely would do. Hey, if we haven't met yet, I'm Phoenix and I'm the tattooed piano teacher. And I started teaching over 20 years ago and started my own in-home studio over a decade ago. Most of these mistakes I know about because I made them, and I'm hoping that I can help you avoid them. So first we'll start with 9 things to avoid, and then I'll give you 9 things that I would suggest doing. Mistake number 1, filling up my schedule immediately. Why is this a mistake? Well, trying to go from 0 students to 25 students within a month can invite the overwhelm as a brand new teacher. It's likely that if you do this, you will end up with a schedule that does not fit your life very well and students that aren't the right fit for you at this time. My advice, start with 1 to 3 students if you are a brand new teacher. Teach those students for a few months and then add on 1 to 2 new students per month after that and build up your student list gradually. Mistake number 2, I would not rent a separate studio space right away. I know it can be tempting to look like a professional business right away, but commercial spaces are expensive. So why is this a mistake? Because you would be starting with a high overhead monthly rate before you're even bringing in your first paycheck. My advice, use the space you have at home. And if that's just not possible, consider using a public space that you have it in with, like your local church or a local community center, or consider being a traveling piano teacher temporarily. For most teachers, using their living room space is going to be the best first step, keeping overhead at a minimum. Even if your space and location isn't completely ideal, this is usually still the best way to start. Mistake number 3, I would not spend a bunch of money on my studio space in my home, getting a new grand piano, getting a bunch of new furniture, remodeling to make it look nice. Why is this a mistake? Again, you're starting in the hole with your new business and we just don't want to do that. Now, this is one mistake that I can honestly say I didn't really do. I was pretty embarrassed of the digital piano that I started teaching on when I left the music store I was teaching at to start teaching at home. It did not have a matching stand or bench. It was kind of an older model. It was not the best thing in the world, but I used it, saved up a little money each month until I was able to buy this one, my Clavinova. Mistake number 4. I would not charge dirt cheap rates as a beginning teacher. Why is this a mistake? Well, having to raise your rates significantly to your current students later down the road is an awkward situation that I personally would not want to be in. And I've also noticed that teachers who lowball everyone else in their area tend to invite students who are less serious about lessons, don't show up for lessons, fight you on spending money on books, don't pay their monthly tuition, and all sorts of different problems. I actually have a video about why you shouldn't charge too cheap of rates for your piano lessons. My advice is to look at the range of rates in your city, town, region, and land in the middle to the lower end of where most people land in your area. If you really are having some imposter syndrome, then it's okay to lean towards the lower end, but I wouldn't go lower than every single other person in your town. Mistake number 5, I would not try to teach everyone. I know it's difficult to turn down willing inquiries when you're a new teacher trying to get some students onto your schedule. But saying yes to everybody is a mistake because different students on different paths require different skills as a teacher. It is overwhelming to try to master guiding students down all these different paths at once if you don't have any experience in this. My advice, target one age range or type of student that you're already familiar with, stick to them, and build from there. If you've never taught in any setting before, then I would suggest sticking to brand new beginners, ages 7 to 9, as all of the method books are designed for that age and they are the easiest to guide as a brand new teacher. Once you learn how to teach them really well, you can branch out. Mistake number 6. I would would not obsess over social media. This wasn't really an issue when I started, but the times they have changed. I know it's tempting to get your business out there on every platform and start posting to try to get new students and to make your studio look legitimate. Why is this a mistake? Because the ratio of time put in posting on a bunch of different platforms daily to new students signing up is not going to be worth your time at this point. My advice, start with a simple Facebook business page, post a few things on there, some pictures and a video. Let people use it as a landing page to make sure you're a legitimate business, and leave it at that until you are ready to add on. Mistake number 7. I would not script every single moment of every single lesson, even as a new teacher. Why is this a mistake? Because if you're obsessed with following a schedule for every minute of every lesson, you rob yourself of the experience of getting feedback from the student, of embracing creativity, which is what music is all about, and a bunch of other caveats. In fact, I just made a video about student-led lessons that talks about observing student responses within a lesson and pivoting there. Now, you might not want to go in with no plan at all. You might want to have a plan for every minute, but my advice is to ground yourself within the lesson, even if it's the first time you've ever taught a lesson. Check in with yourself every 5 minutes. Look at the student you're teaching. Forget the schedule. How are they doing? Are they having a good time? Are they understanding it? Do you need a new activity? Are they yawning? Do they look really, really wiggly and need a little stretch? Be in the moment. Be a human teaching another human. Don't be afraid to stop and think, what would be best to do next? All right, mistake number 8. I wouldn't buy every single resource available immediately. Yes, I do a lot of piano method reviews on this channel, and yes, I'm always encouraging teachers to try new books and things with their students, but you don't want to start your business in the hole, and those little $10 books really add up fast. My advice, focus on choosing a couple of method books that you like for beginners, and then don't buy any more books until you have a student signed up. Then if you need to buy new books for your new students specifically, of course, do that. Mistake number 9. I would not copy another teacher's example. I know that as a new teacher and studio owner, you are looking at other teachers' websites, other teachers' policies, how other teachers are teaching lessons, and I record my lessons too and put them on the membership, and that's all good to observe. At the end of the day, it's your path to carve. Your studio needs to look like your studio, and your students need the books that they need, and your teaching style is going to be different than mine. Your policies are going to be different than mine, and your website's going to look different than mine. So take this all in, but at the end of the day, make mindful decisions that work for you. So those are our 9 mistakes. Now let's focus on 9 things I think you should do. We'll call them the should do's before you start teaching lessons or as a new teacher. Should do number 1. I would start before I felt ready. Yes, I know. It is so easy to put off teaching that first lesson because, well, I haven't learned enough about advanced theory. And what if they want to play jazz improv? I don't know how to jazz improv. And what if I haven't found the perfect method book yet? Yeah, I know. But the truth is that you're never going to feel 100% ready. We learn to be good teachers by teaching. So my advice, pick 1 to 3 things that you feel are non-negotiables before you teach your first lesson. Whether that be building your website, writing your policies, whether that be taking an online theory class, whether that be ordering those method books to pick them out. Pick what's most important for you, do that, and make that your deadline. That way you have a tangible, okay, I might not feel ready, but according to my little list here, I am ready to teach my first lesson. Teach that first lesson, learn as you go. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be present. Should do number 2. I would choose a niche earlier. What I mean by this is I would head down a direction. Doesn't mean you can't change directions later or branch out. But for example, if you used to work at a preschool or a kindergarten and you're really comfortable with that age group, then start there. Get a couple of students in that age group. If you used to be a youth group leader and you love talking to teens, you feel like you have a knack for getting them to open up, then start with teen students. If you really never worked with any teaching environment before, then like I said in the first half of the video, I would stick to teaching beginning students students never had a lesson, ages 7 to 9 or maybe 7 to 10. Those are the easiest students. The books kind of teach themselves, and it's a great way to build up your basic piano lesson skills before you branch out into different types of students. Should do number 3. I would charge more from the beginning. I would not try to be the lowest piano teacher in town. I would not offer introduction discounts to try to get people in the door. These are mistakes I have made, and I learned my lesson. And I can tell you the story at some point about how lesson was learned, but I will not do that here today. I will just advise you to stick to the lower to mid end of the average rates of your community. Then as you gain experience, you can raise your rates every couple of years by a little bit. Should do number 4. I would create strong policies on day 1 before you ever sign up that first student. Now, policies are one of those things that you don't want to learn as you go. Yes, you will inevitably learn as you go and add things to your policies. You want to have the basics in place. I'm going to offer you a couple of resources to help you do this if you feel like your policies are a little weak or if you haven't written them yet. Now, the first resource is something that is in the works. It's called the Complete Piano Teacher Kit. Now, this is a huge toolkit for new piano teachers. Everything you need to get started in there, everything you need to teach your first year of lessons. It is such a big thing that I have been working on it for quite some time and it's not ready yet. The link down below will lead to the waiting list until it is available, and then I, of course, will link that down below. In that toolkit, I have a whole unit about writing policies. We're going to break down every single subtopic possible that could go into your policies. We're going to flesh out which ones are important to you and which ones are not, and we're going to write you the most concise but thorough policies ever, even as a new teacher. Now, if you're not ready to get that kit or it's not available yet, then I do have a free policy template that you can check out. I'll link that down below as well. It's just like one way to write your policies. Steal that format and change it to make it your own if that interests you. Should do number 5. I would host my first recital sooner. So when I started teaching, I was at a music store and they didn't officially require the teachers to have recitals. So I was like, well, if I don't have to do it and I'm not getting paid for it, I'm not gonna do it. This was well over a decade ago. First time I had a recital, I was like, oh, I get it. This is why teachers have recitals. I totally understand now. And I have had them every year, and I have them twice a year consistently now because they are that important. You don't have to have a big fancy recital. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It can be very simple, but just do it. I have a video about stress-free recital planning. I have a free checklist. I will link that all down below as well. Should do number 6. I would sign up for my music staff earlier. My music staff, I cannot overemphasize the value of this little platform. It is less than $20 a month and it handles everything for me. It makes your studio look professional and organized from day one. Invoicing, scheduling. I have a whole video about this if you want to dive deeper, but otherwise just click the link below, get a free trial for 30 days. You don't even have to put in your credit card. Just look at how powerful it is and I guarantee you'll be like, yes, I need this. I need this. As a new teacher, as a veteran teacher, I think every music teacher should have it. It's great. Should do number 7. I would build a simple website. So I have a video about how to build this on Wix, but if you do sign up for the My Music Staff account, you can create a very simple website for free on there. It's included in your monthly rate. I also have a video about how to do that. Doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to hire someone to do it. It can be very simple and it just needs to be some place where people can see your face, see what you do, and click to send you an email. Okay, should do number 8. I would focus on being an excellent beginner teacher. Like I said in the first half, I would not try to be all things to all people right away. That invites overwhelm. If you want to feel like you're in over your head as a new piano teacher, take a transfer student who is in the intermediate to advanced category. And no matter how good of a player you are, if you've never taught that and you start mid-journey with the student, boy, that feels scary. I remember that feeling as a new teacher. So I highly recommend that you stick to beginners, at least for your first few students, and then you can branch out from there. And like I said before, the easiest age to start teaching is age 7 to 9. The method books are created just for those students. They kind of teach themselves, and these students are just so easy to work with usually at that age that it's a great way to get down the basics of piano teaching. Okay, final should do, number 9. I would invest in systems rather than setting myself up to reinvent the wheel every month for the rest of my piano teaching career. So whenever you can, think about future you. If there's an email that you write a couple of times, make it a template. If there's a form that you created to have one of your parents fill out, make it a template. Get it onto Google Docs. So anything that you can do, here's how I would think about it. Imagine that you're going to be hiring a personal assistant a year from now, and you want to document the process or save the template or whatever the case may be so that that person can recreate what you're doing for that situation a year from now. Now, you may never hire an assistant, or you might not do so in a year, but you see what I mean. You are the assistant. You're making it easier for future you. So do it right the first time, save it in an organized file system, and have it there ready for you to use for the next time. Document everything, and future you will thank you. So a word of encouragement to close with here. Remember that mistakes are rarely permanent. You'll get through them, you will make them, you will learn from them, and everything will be okay. Okay? I'm here to support you. If you're a new piano teacher, let me give you a few resources to choose from for your next step. First of all, I'm going to link the first lesson tips video. So if you are ready to teach your first lesson or you want to get better at that situation, then check out this tip video right here. And if you are a new teacher interested in the complete piano teacher kit, then either sign up for the waiting list, or if it is available when you're watching this, I will link that down below. It has everything you need for your first year of teaching. Now, if that isn't available or you're not ready for that yet, consider joining the membership at Tier 2 and Tier 3. You will get access to deep dives for piano teachers. You will get behind the scenes footage of me teaching lessons so you can see one example of how it's done, and a bunch of other extras. And finally, I would invite you to join my free email challenge called Start Your Studio. I will link that down below as well. Over the course of 30 days, you'll receive 12 steps through email. It's completely free. It'll help you get the back end of your studio set up, from my music stack to your website, your logo, your name, becoming a legitimate business, everything you need right up until teaching that first lesson. So I will see you on the first lesson tip video or another piano teacher tip video very soon. Bye.